Let me take you right to that moment. The kind you'd only believe if you'd lived through it yourself, or maybe if you'd had a neighbor like mine. See, I never set out to be the center of any drama, let alone spark the kind of war you'd expect from a cable TV miniseries. I just wanted a little peace. After almost 20 years as a zoning inspector, I'd learned that good fences, good paperwork, and good sense usually kept the peace better than any argument ever could. So when I took a temporary gig out in Brookhaven County, suburban, old houses, lot lines like spaghetti on a map, I figured, finally, I'd found the kind of quiet I'd been missing. And at first, it looked like I'd been right. The county even paid for me to relocate. I ended up with a little triangle of land on the edge of one of the oldest neighborhoods, a fixer-upper for sure, but it felt like a sanctuary. There was this old, overgrown path behind it. No one using it anymore, just a memory from a time before the woods grew in and the world moved on. To me, it was perfect. I checked every survey, pulled every map, made sure the lines were right, because that's how I've always done things. Hired a local surveyor just to be sure. Turns out, that community path was nothing but a rumor. Never on the books, not a right-of-way, just a shortcut from a different era. So, after settling in, I started work on a new fence. Nothing flashy, just privacy, some peace and quiet. I did it all by the book, every permit signed, every T crossed. The fence company was a family outfit, decent people, careful workers. We started on a warm spring morning, digging post holes and figuring out how to work around the odd angles of my property. And that's when the storm hit. Except it wasn't from the sky, it was from next door. You ever meet someone who can ruin a sunny day just by showing up? That was Karen Foster. She came out in this oversized sun hat, gloves up to her elbows, striding over like she was leading a parade, and before I could even say good morning, she was unloading on me, voice loud enough to startle the birds. According to her, my fence was illegal, blocking a public trail, violating the trust of the neighborhood. She threatened to call the county, the association, her lawyer, maybe the president for all I know. I tried to stay calm, showed her the permits, the survey, even explained that the fence plan had already gone through zoning. I was polite, professional. She wasn't interested. She just got louder, accused me of abusing my job, said I was taking public land for myself. It would have been funny if it wasn't so intense. Next thing I know, she's back inside, dialing the police. So, the cops show up, young guys, clearly tired of being dragged into neighbor spats. They look over my paperwork, nod, then tell Karen, who's hovering with her phone out like she's about to film a crime, there's nothing illegal going on. She accuses them of favoritism. They leave, telling her to be careful about wasting their time. I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be it. But no, that was just the first round. Over the next few days, I started getting weird notes, stuff in my mailbox, some anonymous tips about how things worked around here. Karen started circulating a petition, claiming I was stealing a public path, trying to get my permit revoked. I didn't confront her. I documented everything, filed every note, and kept my supervisor in the loop, just in case this escalated into something bigger. Turns out, I underestimated Karen. She moved on from shouting matches to legal maneuvers, official complaints, even a prescriptive easement claim, saying that just because people used to walk that path, the public owned it now. She had a lawyer drafted up, loaded with emotional language about community and heritage. Prescriptive easements. Those things can drag on for years if you're not careful. So, I called my own attorney, Julia, who'd seen this kind of thing before. She told me to stay patient, keep collecting evidence. I had old photos showing the path was overgrown long before I moved in. Even got a letter from the previous owner, 25 years living here, never saw a soul walk that path. Julia was calm. It's about paper and precedent, not feelings. But Karen kept raising the stakes. When the petition didn't work, she filed an environmental complaint, claiming my fence was ruining some kind of fragile habitat. If the county found anything, they could have put a stop work order on my project for months. So I requested an immediate site inspection, figured my former colleagues would handle it by the book. Meanwhile, I paused construction along the disputed section, didn't want to give anyone reason to say I was hiding something. The atmosphere got tense. Neighbors gave me cold stares, some started whispering as I walked by. Flyers appeared on the bulletin boards, warning about the path being stolen. Even my contractors felt the chill, working quietly, and wrapping up as fast as possible. Just when I thought things might cool down, someone sabotaged the fence, ripped out panels, broke posts, scattered hardware everywhere. No note, no one saw a thing. I called the police, filed a report, and sent Karen a formal notice of trespass. Nothing accusatory, just legal positioning, in case things got any worse. Of course, she turned that around, claiming harassment. Her friends lit up social media, calling me a bully, a thief, an outsider. Through it all, I kept my head down and stuck to the facts. Julia filed responses to every complaint, property records, environmental surveys, even old neighborhood correspondence that showed Karen herself had once tried, and failed, to buy the land she was now calling a public path. An elderly neighbor, Mr. Weaver, came forward with pictures and letters proving Karen's story was, frankly, fiction. Eventually, it all came to a head. The county's Property Disputes Committee held a hearing. Karen showed up with her lawyer and a group of supporters, waving old photos of kids playing in someone else's backyard. Julia dismantled the whole argument, piece by piece. The committee ruled in my favor. No easement, no public path, no grounds for any of it. But Karen wasn't done. She filed a civil suit for emotional distress, said my fence ruined her property, destroyed her peace. It was exhausting, but by then, even the neighborhood was getting tired of the drama. Attendance at her meetings dwindled, her friends grew quieter. The court threw out her case, too. Pointed to the mountain of evidence that everything I'd done was by the book, that the real abuse was coming from her side. When the dust finally settled, I finished my fence. It wasn't just a line in the dirt anymore. It was proof of process, of standing up for yourself the right way. Neighbors who once glared at me now waved. A few even apologized for believing the rumors. I got invited to community meetings again, offered advice on zoning questions, helped people navigate their own property headaches. And Karen? Well, she faded into the background, her influence gone, her stories falling flat. The county even updated its procedures, making it harder for anyone to abuse the system for personal vendettas. I went back to tending my garden, drinking coffee on my porch, enjoying the peace I'd fought so hard to keep. You know, looking back, I learned something. It's never really about the fence. It's about what you're willing to stand for and what kind of neighbor you decide to be. So tell me, what would you have done if you'd been in my shoes? Was there a point where you'd have just given in, or is it worth digging in when the principle's on the line? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment, share your own neighborhood stories, and let's talk about where you draw the line between peace and principle.